Good afternoon, colleagues from Europe. Good morning, folk from America. Good evening, friends from China. And good night, mates from Australia. Welcome to the book launch of Ádám Bethlenfalvy's new book, Living Through Extremes in Process Drama. I'm Ádám Cziboly. I'm an associate professor at Western Norway University of Applied Sciences. I'm going to moderate this discussion from my office here in Bergen, and believe it or not, today it's not raining. Today we are more than 50 participants from more than 20 countries. It is a pretty exciting event for us. And we are kindly asking you to use this chat button throughout the 1 hour we are going to spend together. Because after the 4 presentations, we really hope we'll have some time for discussions, questions and answers. So anything that you would like to ask from any of the speakers, please just write it into the chat. And at the end, we will choose a few questions from those, and we will discuss those together with everyone who is in this panel. So soon we will start, but first I would like you to listen to the welcome words by Professor Enikő Sepsi, who is the director of Károlyi Publishing House, the publisher of the book.
Hi everyone, dear colleagues and guests. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you at this online book launch. My name is Enikő Sepsi and I am the series editor of Károlyi books published by our university in collaboration with Larmaton in Hungary and in France. I am also the founder of the Department of Art and Media Pedagogy in Hungary at Károly Gáspár University, where we implemented the postgraduate teacher training program in drama education some years ago. That's why we were glad to publish the book version of the PhD thesis of our colleague Ádám Bethlenfalvy, who became responsible for this program this September on. The practice-based book will be useful, I am sure, for teachers and practitioners. I wish you a professionally beneficial but also entertaining time. Thank you for watching. Enjoy reading the publication. Bye.
And now we start the program. And I'm giving the floor to my friend and colleague, Ádám Bethlenfalvy, who is going to summarize the key findings of the book. Adam, the floor is yours, please.
So, hello everyone. It's really nice to be here. I hope everyone can see the screen that I'm sharing. It's really exciting to talk to so many people from around the world. Thank you for joining us. And I also wanted to thank the wonderful practitioners who are on the panel. I'm really, really honored by their presence as well. So my task here is to talk you through this 292-page publication. And I'll just start and go through this. So, it was just published this year, and there's a wonderful foreword in it by Professor David Davis. And the whole publication is based on my PhD research that was done at Birmingham City University, where my supervisors were Professor David Davis and Professor Richard Hatcher, and in the final years, Eleni Kanira as well. I also want to thank them for their help through this process. But the main question is why did I begin working on this subject, and what was my starting point? And one of the starting points was a personal professional motivation, that I felt that there is not enough drama in my drama lessons. Perhaps later it will become more clear what I mean by when I'm saying this. But there was another question related to the general field of drama in education. That was the need to redefine the relationship between theater and drama education. Namely, the question of which elements of theater does our drama lesson, does our work build upon the most? So I wanted to investigate these questions. This is something that's useful to check and to look at from time to time. So where I looked at was two territories that really interested me. One, it was from the field of drama education, that was the living through approach, and the other one was a contemporary playwright, Edward Bond's theory and his plays, his work, his practical work. And I looked at what happens if these two are merged, these two meet. Of course, this was not a new idea in this, in a sense. The field of theater in education and also drama in education has been looking at this question for some time, and I wanted to explore it for myself. So looking at living through drama, it's a form of drama which emphasizes the being in the fiction of the participants, so that they explore the situations from within and the situations they're placed in through different structures. This is based on Heathcote's, Dorothy Heathcote's early work, Man in a Mess, where in relation to which she defines drama as human beings confronted by situations which change them because of what they must face in dealing with those challenges. This is from one of her first articles titled Improvisation, and basically placing young people in these fictional situations where they face challenges has remained an integral part of living through drama. In the book, in the book's first chapter, I analyze Dorothy Heathcote's work through her publications and some videos, and I also look at reinterpretations of this living through drama. I analyze the work of Gavin Bolton, and also analyze the work of Cecily O'Neill, who's here today with us, and also the work of David Davis, who all structure drama in a different way. They have their own approaches, but the aim remains quite closely to create situations where young people can be in these fictions and can meet exciting, important crises of some sort in this fictional drama. Looking at these different forms, I found some connections. One of them is that they all emphasize being in this fiction for the participants, and they all also emphasize experiencing and dealing with this fictional crisis that occurs. But surprisingly, they also emphasize, all three, a very conscious use of theater components and signings. It was interesting for me because living through drama is often misrepresented as a continuous sort of improvisation, continuous play. And actually, I found when I analyzed these forms that there is a real strong emphasis on offering participants the conscious use of theater components. So this leads me on to the other element of my research, Edward Bond's work, and I try to sort of get a grip on his very large body of work through one component, one element, one concept he himself used at some point, which is drama event. And actually, drama event is a moment in the drama that we can sort of theorize as the clash between the needs of society and the needs of the individual human being. And these two are very basic needs that get clashed within the story, within the structure of the drama, and they create a sort of human paradox, something that could happen outside the drama as well, but of course this is dramatized in a particular way. This human paradox is something that has no solution. It's a situation where you don't have a clear right or wrong, but actually this paradox creates a gap for the audience watching the play. And Edward Bond's work creates this possibility through many different structures, and this is examined in the book as well. So on one hand, he offers concepts like site, center, cathexis, enactment, and drama event itself that help create these moments. But I also look at and analyze his plays to find the dramaturgical structures he uses to create these moments. So how are the plays structured? I look at in this chapter, but I identify 7 different structures that then I can use in my work. So one of the plays, for example, that I look at from Edward Bond's work is The Children. Here you can see photos from a production done with young people and 2 adult actors. But actually, in my research, I used this play to create a process drama with 9, 10-year-old children. It was really interesting. But my basic research question was, can Bondian drama events be created in Living Through Drama, which is interesting because one is experiential, improvisation-based approach to drama education. The other is a fairly structured, strict theater performance-based component. How can I bring the two together? And I explored this question through action research I did. So I implemented my own drama lessons that I planned based on these concepts. And I did this in 2 cycles, first with 9, 11-year-old children. And then in the second cycle, I explored plays, process dramas with 14+ young people. And I used a whole lot of different data collection forms, data collection modes. But I'm sorry, I'm just rushing through to get to the findings of these 2 cycles of research. So the first cycle was basically using Bondian structures in the planning of the process drama. I did 3 series of 3 drama lessons with this age group, and they all provided really interesting findings. The first one was based on The Children I was talking about, which is a play in which a mother asks her child to burn down a house. This creates a sort of paradox situation. The child shares this with his friends, and they deal somehow with this case. Of course, the mother is trying to take revenge in the play on someone through this. But I tried to work this into a process drama, and it was really interesting because I was exploring how the extreme works in fiction and reality. And what I found was that when I did this process drama, the teacher was really worried. She asked me was observing the drama lesson. She asked me at the end of the drama lesson that, are you sure this is appropriate for these kids? And so in the focus group discussion, I asked this from the kids themselves, and they said, of course, if this would happen in reality, that would be, that wouldn't be right, that would be wrong. But if this happens in fiction, then actually it makes it exciting, it makes it fun. So that was a really interesting learning for me. And actually I realized that the young people find that the extremeness of the story, of the narrative, reinforces the fictional nature of drama for them. It actually, they feel it's more fictional if they are, if they're working on extreme situations. And actually, it makes it more safe for them because fiction provides the safety in drama lessons. And also the other findings concerning this was what we actually see as extreme as adults is very different from what young people, what children see as extreme. So, for example, losing control over a narrative they have co-created with you is an extreme moment in which they can work and they can relate to it clearly. So the next series of drama lessons brought very different findings. It was based on the refugee crisis in 2015. That's when I was doing these workshops. And actually what I found was that narratives based on current socio-political issues can engage, but they can also alienate participants. When I try to translate the situation very directly into the fiction. But actually, narratives based on profound dilemmas of human life can generate more space for participants to bring in their personal interests, their social interests and concerns. So this was a really interesting finding for me. And I carried it on into the third series of drama lessons. But there I was looking much more at objects and how these can create participants in the drama lessons, space for the participants in the drama lessons, and how they can be used to create gaps in meaning that they can work through improvisations done with these objects. So these oranges you can see in there, or clementines, became really focus points of debate and argument, and things could be explored through working with them very effectively, very graphically, getting them into their hands. But objects can also really help in creating a change in perspective for the participants. Of course, I was working through living through drama, and one of the biggest realizations was that it has to be clear what the aim of being in role is. It was clear that participants really enjoyed the living through improvisation. 71% said they enjoyed it the most. But what I realize is that they are demonstrating their thinking. They're trying to solve situations in the improvisations as we do in life, rather than actually trying to create meaningful moments or create dramatic situations. Why would they? So my understanding was that for participants to create drama events, they need to understand much more about the theater structures. And I tried out in the second cycle to offer these theater structures explicitly to participants so that they could use it. And I went through a lot of different things, all the same in all of them, a lot of different drama lessons. The same was that they're researching, framed as researchers, explorers together. And I also told them the aim of the theater, which is to create some gaps for the audience, the aim of creating theater, and the subject, the content, the center of what we are exploring together. Beside these, I explicitly offered them dramaturgical structures taken from Bond's work that could be built into the scenes and improvisations. So, sorry, I just jumped here. These are the four, I narrowed down the 7 structures into 4 different structures, and I offered these, but I won't be going through them because of the shortage of time. And I used them with a drama based on 1956, played in a refugee camp. I can show you myself in a very funny sunglass here. I did a drama lesson which didn't really work. I'm quite honest in my about my failings as well in the book, about the students' revolt. And the most interesting was a story based on a wild child, a child found in the forest, raised by a sort of feral child story. And here the participants created planned improvisations that they completed later. And it became clear that actually from the feedback they were giving, that the conscious awareness and use of Bondian theater concepts and structures did not hinder their participation in the living through improvisations. So they were actually quite happy to use these structures, but still felt the urgency of the improvisation of the situation at the same time. So this was a really interesting central learning for me, and it really raises questions about how theater and drama can be connected, and the living through aspect does not need to be in opposition to theater structure form, and we can really understand much more of this if we research further. So thank you for your patience and your attention, and I'll be really interested in hearing the comments of our invited speakers about this.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm kindly reminding you to use the chat to ask questions. I'm pretty sure you already have a lot of questions by now, and it would be really exciting to discuss these questions after the 3 reflections. But as a first person who's going to reflect to what Adam has said, I'm inviting Professor David Davis, who has also written the foreword of the book, to give his notes, understandings on what Adam has been talking about.
Hi, if I'm on. I can see me there with everybody else. Hi to everyone, and especially a very warm welcome to, I see quite a number of ex-students there from way down the years, so hello to you, and I wish I could see you all. I'm delighted to be part of this launch of Adam's book. When I first had Adam as a student, I realized that he was a serious young man. I don't mean to offend Adam, but anyone under 50 these days is a young person to me. He was serious about his work with young people. As he says early on in his book, I started this research primarily to develop myself as a drama teacher. How refreshing to hear this, rather than to come across people looking for the easiest research topic that will more quickly further their career. We live in troubled times. Young people are growing up in this troubled world. More troubled than at any time I've known. We live in a social world that has become dominated by neoliberal self-centeredness, self-aggrandizement, self-interest above communal good. It seems to me that some young people are hyper-aware of the dangers ahead. Some are seemingly turning a blind eye to it and are taken over by this self-interest. Most are probably just trying to survive as best they can. Drama in education has never been more important. It must do the job the best drama has always set itself to do, to enable us to find our values and try to find ourselves in a sea of competing forces. Adam's book serves just this role. In his second series of drama lessons, the recurring areas of concern for the young participants is, how can one take ownership of one's life? How can dominant social ways of thinking be questioned? How can you find yourself in contemporary society? To use Adam's own words about the various dramas. All of the dramas are highly relevant for young people. The refugee camp for displaced teenagers after the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. The media company working to discredit student activists demonstrating against a bad education system. The role of nurturing and education in helping the wild child to socialize. All link and interconnect with areas of key concern today. What is trailblazing about Adam's book is his turn to examine how the dramaturgy developed by the playwright Edward Bond can be adapted and used in classroom drama. This is new work, moving into totally new areas for drama education. Both he and Kostas Amouropoulos have done groundbreaking work in this area. Again, to use Adam's own words, the central question here is, can a gap in meaning be created in the narrative that participants from within the fictional world need to fill with their own understanding of the incident that is independent of dominant social narratives? This has been Bond's own pursuit in a lifetime of playwriting. I remember Edward Bond telling me he was reading Crime and Punishment for the 4th time. What fascinated Bakhtin about Dostoevsky was how Dostoevsky hid his authorial voice. How can the reader be allowed to interact with the voices of the characters in his novels without the author shining a light on what they should be listening to? I suspect this is what motivated Bond to read and reread him. The same pursuit is here for Adam. How can the drama teacher set up situations that provoke the young people to see afresh, but not to guide them in the direction of their thinking? His pursuit of that gap in meaning is detailed in his research here. I found Adam's analysis of Bond's use of theatre form one of the most useful and thorough I've come across. Leading up to his research, Adam provides a most useful study of the many different approaches to living through drama that have taken place in the history of drama in education. He points out the search for living through drama with capital letters marks off a related but qualitatively different form of living through extremes. Most interestingly, in the most developed part of his research, is his arming the students with an artistic awareness of those of Bond's devices they are using. This is the first research I know of that has tried to do this. I feel sure it's the precursor to much more work in this area. Although where that work will take place in this troubled world, I know not. However, I do know that Adam's book will be a useful tool to all those drama teachers and researchers interested in this field. I wish Adam well with his adventure and recommend his book to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And now I'm honored to give our virtual floor to Professor Cecily O'Neill. Please, Cecily.
Hello, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be part of this gathering. And I'd like to thank Adam very much for the book, which I believe will make a really important contribution to the literature of drama education. And of course, Adam's work is a testament to everything he learned at Birmingham, where he was very, very lucky, and his mentor, David Davis. David, of course, has been a significant presence in drama and education for many, many years. Inevitably, when we encounter other people's approaches to drama, one immediately compares it with one's own approach. So in reading this book, it became clear to me that Adam shares many of the same principles that guide my own work. And these include the need for participants to feel a sense of ownership in the work and a degree of control over it. And for them, there should always be a sense of possibility, of transformation and of change. They shouldn't feel that they're working through a pre-planned and preordained series of activities. And they should know, of course, that the work is open to both individual and group responses. And most of all, they should feel safe while they're engaged in the fiction. And of course, the other reason that we're interested in other people's work is because we want to learn from it. And among the many aspects of this study that fascinate me, I think it was the inclusion of the Bondian use of objects in order to open up gaps in meaning that the participants can fill imaginatively, and that really fascinated me. Adam's use of objects effectively highlighted contradictions in the different situations and provided a kind of scaffolding for reflection and understanding. And as a result, I began to think about my own use of objects in my work, and also how other people have used them. Now, Dorothy Heathcote was well known for using documents and artifacts, and even food as part of her dramas. But I believe that she used them to enrich the work and establish the situation and increase the participants' understanding rather than a way of highlighting contradictions. And in my work, I've used letters and posters and invitations and photographs and so on. And I have used objects in order to help make a situation concrete for the participants. But I'm not really sure to what extent I've ever used objects in order to highlight a paradox or for the participants to interrogate the value and meaning of those objects. So I absolutely plan to explore those ideas further. Of course, Shakespeare, who's the guide to anybody who wants to know what to include in a drama lesson, he uses objects. Macbeth, there's letters, the handkerchief in Othello, the skull in Hamlet, the 3 caskets and Marissa's ring in The Merchant of Venice, and so on. But I wonder to what extent these are actually plot devices, are prompts for example, a soliloquy. But I don't think they embody any kind of contradiction, though I'll have to go back and look at them. I think of all the various aspects of the research, I was perhaps most interested in the Wild Child drama, which Adam noted was the most successful framework for including Bondian concepts and dramaturgical structures. And perhaps that's because I feel the choice of narrative resonates most strongly with my own approach. I was reminded of the talking wolves in the Red Riding Hood drama that some of you may have experienced. But there were several crucial differences. In the Wild Child, the students were invited from the beginning to be co-researchers, to become partners with Adam. And they were explicitly made aware that a conscious exploration of certain dramaturgical concepts was the actual purpose of the work. Now, this partnership stance meant that rather than making them feel distant from the project, they felt safe and they felt free to offer ideas without any fear of those ideas being rejected or being wrong. But even though this seems rather a distanced role, it didn't prevent the story capturing the imagination of the students and creating real engagement. And I think this is because the actual story is concerned with a crucial question of human identity. And perhaps it's the central question that's posed by all great drama, which is, I think, who is this that we see before us? And it's certainly a question at the heart of Shakespeare's greatest plays. For example, in The Tempest, can we ask, is Caliban really human? And does Prospero's attempt to educate him actually improve him and make him more fully human, or make him actually more aware of his difference? He says, you taught me language and I use it to curse you. Doesn't sound like a good educational outcome. A key element in the structure of this drama was the pre-planning of the improvisations. Now, again, that's rather different from the way I work or have worked in the past. Who knows? There's always the possibility of change and improvement. The details of the collective scenes, the details of the scenes were collectively planned, but when they were actually enacted, the sense of being in the drama actually took over and they became improvisational and a kind of living through happened. It's fascinating that the object they chose to include in their improvisations was a mirror. And in offering this object to the Wild Child, they're actually literally holding a mirror up to nature. And they include another Bondian device, the unexpected action, when the Wild Child tears the mirror off the wall. I wish I'd been there. So it's clear to me that the artistic awareness among the young people of the artistic dimensions of the work actually enhanced the process for the participants. And I think this approach also answers the criticism of drama teaching that too often any understanding and use of artistic and dramaturgical elements remains firmly with the teacher. Well, in this case, that is clearly didn't happen. And the way in which Adam structured this particular session seems to me to offer a way forward. Time constraints and curricular pressures may make it very difficult for this kind of structure to operate successfully in schools, but I believe it could be invaluable for older students and youth theatres and university students, for example, who are tasked with devising their own work. As Adam notes, when young people devise their own dramas, the result is often rather disappointing and deficient, both in depth of meaning and in artistic achievement. But I think that in this important book, and in his real in-depth research, Adam demonstrates quite clearly that an enhanced awareness of complex theatre practices actually help to engage participants and to create for them both powerful artistic outcomes and enlarged educational opportunities. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you so much, Cecily. And now, last but not least, I would like to ask Chris Cooper to reflect on the book. Chris, please.
Okay, hello everyone. This is weird because I can't see anyone. I just want to echo what's been said already about what an interesting and refreshing publication this is. And there's lots I could reflect on, but I think what I'd rather do in the time I've got is just focus on one particular Bondian device, if you like, and that's the extreme, because I think the book, although I'm very familiar with it in one sense, has made me see it in quite a new and very, very refreshing and enlightening way. Now, in his plays, Bond pushes moments in the drama to extremes. It's common to all of his drama. And that's because in real life, we enter extreme moments, usually moments of crisis. And we have to find out who we are in those moments. So in those moments, all the prejudices, the preconceived ideas, the mindless sort of assumptions that we live every day by fall aside. Or I suppose another way of putting it would be that the ideological veil that is before our eyes disintegrates. And that's the reality of the extreme in life. And I think that what Bond seeks to do is to develop the same strategy, building on the tragic tradition in drama, to create the freedom to enter into an extreme moment and meet ourselves on the stage. And it provides an opportunity to provide the ability to liberate ourselves from that ideological veil. And I think that the drama events that Adam referred to are not possible without it. So extreme is used in drama, in our drama, because we're concerned with how the self is formed in society, how the political and social is located in the personal, with how we have an understanding or not about the way we live, and about how culture informs the way we see ourselves and each other. And of course, we can do this through drama, through story specifically. And drama can have the role in creating that space where we can question meanings and recognize that what we assume to be natural is actually a cultural given. And it's the way society explains itself to us. So it gives us then the space to really get to the heart of what all drama is about, which is addressing that universal, timeless, unanswerable question of what it is to be human. So when I talk about the drama, the extreme, for those who might not be familiar, I don't mean it has to be violent. It can even be, in fact, comic. But what it's about is pushing the logic of a situation to its absolute furthest extreme point so that we can see beyond convention. And this is something that fairy tales do all the time. So if you imagine Hansel and Gretel, within 3 sentences, parents have decided to lead their children into the woods and abandon them, their children's greatest fear, to die. That's pretty extreme. It's a very common convention within the story, and it's why we use it and need it. So the important thing to note in a story like that, or in any drama where you're entering into the extreme, is that the fiction itself provides a frame for it. Now, I think lots of very complicated things are said about frame, too complicated, I think. But I think there's a very important fundamental that we should always recognize, is that every human encounter is indeed framed, and no encounter is neutral. So in drama, the fiction provides a fundamental frame that we often underestimate the power of, the distancing power of fiction itself, that kids know it's a story, and the extremes of the situation are built into the site and the situation that we're exploring. So when we see a drama, we see people, say, in a room, let's take the children that Adam's referred to, in a house that could be very similar to our own house, very similar to our own parents or ourselves. What we do is, through that connection, we begin to explore our own situation, our own values, and perhaps how we might deal with the similar situation. Now, to really do that, however, in Bondian drama, we have to take it to the extreme. Something in that house has to be extreme. And I think objects become extremely important in that respect, as Cecily has just remarked upon, because Bond once described them as the modern form of soliloquy, which I found to be eternally useful, because it's through the objects themselves that you take yourself to the extreme. So to use the example of the children, both in the play and in the drama that Adam describes in his book, bricks appear throughout. At the beginning of the play, there's a stoning of the doll. Joe, who's the central child in it, tries to smash his doll with a brick because he's frustrated with his own childhood, his own situation. And later in the play, without getting into the story, a man appears, and what he does is he uses a brick to kill the children. He crushes their skulls in their sleep, because actually he's taking revenge for the death of his own child through the people he feels are responsible. So the brick, if you like, runs throughout the whole play, and it develops as a motif, and the audience witnesses that development. And structurally, that element enables us to enter into what the center of the play is. And there's a moment in the play which is very extreme. And it's not so much that there's the killing of the children in the play. It's the fact that before the man kills a child, we see him cradling the brick like a baby and talking about his own child that he has loved and lost, and how he reflects that really it would be all different. He would want it to be different if this extreme thing had not happened to him. And what that does, that structural shift, is it suddenly makes us reevaluate everything we've perceived, because up to this point, we've seen a man creating and doing monstrous crimes. Suddenly, in a more human and contradictory, paradoxical way. And it's an extremity where we have to rethink, reconfigure everything we've been thinking to that point. And as Adam's talked about it in reflecting on talking with the children, he has always felt quite comfortable with the extreme working in theatre, but in drama, he's been so much more cautious about it. Just as the teacher who watches it from the outside is more cautious about it. Because of course, the thought of a parent asking their child to burn down the house of another is utterly horrifying and terrifying. And yet the children were able to say to Adam, yes, but actually that's what made it interesting. And they were also able to identify that it may not appear anything other than horrifying to someone from the outside, but from the inside, that's what gave it its logic, its sense. And they also pointed out that a teacher, for example, might find it hard to understand. But I think what's so interesting about what the research is showing is that the extremity of that situation is actually reinforcing the fictional nature of the situation for the children. So in life, it would be awful, but in the drama, it becomes something that we can really begin to use and manipulate. And it's the extremity itself that makes the drama interesting. That's the fun of it, actually. And I'm interested in that because throughout my working life in theatre and education, in drama and education, I've often been accused of not allowing children to have fun. But actually, this makes you really think about, well, what do we mean by fun? Because fun isn't just about laughter, it's that also. But it's also that thing that Vygotsky says about play. Fun can be serious too. It's about having the freedom and constraints of doing something meaningful at the same time. It's about really engaging in that world that David has described in his opening remarks. So what I found really exciting about that was in the children, the work on the children, was how the fiction gave the children the protection, how it gave them a self-consciousness of their own process, but also how really we can recognize in the findings that we really can trust the power of story, that we can trust the children to enter into those extreme moments, and the extremity of the form itself will remind them and protect them of the safety of the non-real or the non-reality of the situation in order to become closer and closer towards reality. And for me, out of many of the things in the book, that feels like something at this time, a particular extreme crisis in reality, that we can benefit hugely from thinking about that, just that one particular aspect in the work that Adam has offered us. So I'll just leave my comments there. There's much else I could say, but that feels very rich and very necessary given the state of the world today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris. And now we have roughly 10 minutes time for a little discussion. So I'm kindly asking all of our panelists, also Cecily, David and Chris, please turn on your cameras. And I'm just going to say several questions I received either through the chat or privately while you have been presenting. And if anyone has anything to say about it, it would be interesting to develop a discussion about it. One technical thing, I received a question whether this recording will be sent to the participants. Yes, this will be published on InSite's Facebook page and also on InSite's YouTube channel, and we will send the link to all participants who are attending. Question by Stig Eriksson: is this text more or less the same as the doctoral dissertation text? Maybe Adam, you can answer to this.
Yes.
Okay, that was quick. So the next question, what I received in the private chat, by revealing what you are doing, isn't the magic of drama get lost? What do you think about this, Adam? Or any of you, Cecily, David, or Chris?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I can repeat the question. So by revealing what you are doing, I think by revealing the kind of forms Adam is using in his second cycle and the objective of his work, isn't the magic of drama get lost? That's the question.
Clearly not. I mean, I think I used to, when I very first started working in drama and education, I was trying to work in role, and I had a feeling that if I ever stopped the role and gave the kids a chance to take things into their own hands a bit, that the magic would be lost. I suppose I thought I was relying the magic, turned out not to be the case. And that as soon as I actually was able to share the work and make the work in a way more explicit, or change perspectives, or provide, in effect, more possibilities, the magic continued happening. There was no problem about the magic. It's whether the work is worthwhile and meaningful and the kids are engaged in it. That's where the magic lies. And kids, as we know, especially anybody working in children's theatre knows, that children are the toughest critics, and they decide whether it's magical or not necessarily the people offering it to them.
Just a one sentence comment on that. Thank you, Cecily. I completely agree. I think it's very much about control. and responsibility. And I think it's really useful if one can share that. But actually, it reminds me of a sentence I read from Mike Fleming, Professor Fleming from Durham. In one of his books, he writes that actually the aim of the drama teacher should be to make him or herself redundant by allowing the students to take over all the components and be able to use them really without the teacher giving them guidance. And that's when he or she has achieved their aim.
Okay, a question by Shaoxi from Beijing, China. I was wondering, what do all the three speakers think about this question of, do kids feel safe when they go into the extremes, and the findings in Adam's research in this topic?
I would agree, absolutely. I think the more problematic the issue you're dealing with, the more fictional, if you like, it should be. Outer space, or something that shows that the fiction is powerfully there, and that it is pretend, as Chris said, you know, that it's not really happening. Then that's where the safety lies, and that allows you to go to the extremes. So I think the people who don't feel safe very often are the teachers, because they're on the outside of it, and they're not in that protected space that the pretend gives you. So I don't, I've had teachers in tears watching the children who are very intensely involved and who afterwards break out in smiles and laughter at their success of their involvement and their, if you like, their the depth of the work that they have produced.
Could I say briefly? Is that all right? I'm on, yeah? Okay. I mean, I think that obviously the question of protection and safety is very important in our work, and there's a lot that we, you know, if we had more time, we could talk about the nuances of that in structure and in task and in role, etc., and how we frame the kids. But I think the central point I was trying to make was not underestimating the capacity that the children have to recognize that fictional situation and how much safety those extremes can give. I remember once working in Greece at Porta Studio with 5-year-olds, and we were doing a version of Rumpelstiltskin, and I let the children take on large control of the story, and it took a very dark turn. And I remember at one point being quite alarmed with my teacher hat on as one of the little 5-year-old girls began to break into tears as part of this story and wail and grieve for the loss of a stolen child. And at the end of the session, she just got up and she skipped off with a big smile on her face and literally skipped towards the door to meet her mother. And when the teacher who was observing asked her if she was okay, she said, "Yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine." And I said to her, "Are you sure you're all right? You seem very upset." She said, "Yes, I'm absolutely fine." She said, "Because I really enjoyed being allowed to be unhappy." And I thought that showed an extraordinary thing in a 5-year-old, an extraordinary awareness of the dramatic process itself. And for me, that was magical, if you like, because she was able to inhabit both worlds instantly and step out of it. And I think if it's well-structured work and the kids are well protected, we can really allow them to take themselves where they want to. And I think what the book really brings home is how much the children are in control of what they choose to make themselves part of and what they choose not to make themselves part of, which I think is very much part of the wild child drama that Cecily is referring to.
David, would you like anything to add?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Adam?
I would just reflect very shortly. I think the whole question of what we consider extreme is really interesting. So my understanding is that very often what we adults or teachers see as extreme is very different from what the children see as extreme. And in this sense, I think, for example, the wild child drama, being the feral child narrative, which is there in our cultures for so many in so many different forms, or even the half human, half animal creature. So you know that, on one hand, it's not so extreme to some extent, but actually the question it raises are you know, how you feed a feral child who has never learned to eat from a plate, it can become really extreme in a drama. So that can become really exciting. I just wanted to reflect on one question I just saw in the chat from Professor Eriksson from Stig about which is related to the question of is it not very restrictive if we just look at Bond? But I'm, you know, in relation to that, my understanding is this is the theater that I understand and I've worked on, and I think it is worthwhile studying all sorts of different authors and theories and trying to connect them with drama in education. So it's just one step in this direction. But the other thing is, what was important for me is not starting from the form of the theater, which is, I think, very often the thing happening in drama in education. So we take a form from theater and use it in drama, but actually trying to look at the structures. And this is what I found in the Living Through approach, very exciting, that really builds on the structures of the drama, of the theater, rather than just on the forms.
Thank you. In the last few minutes, we received at least a dozen pretty exciting questions in the chat. At the same time, I'm aware of the time, so basically our time is up, which is a pity. We will collect these questions, and I think we can publish it besides the video, just for the sake of knowing what kind of questions are being raised by this 1 hour long session. And also later, I don't know when and I don't know where, but we could have time, we could have some occasion when we could discuss plenty of these questions. But unfortunately, our time is up. So I have just one last question to you, Adam. Someone asked, where can we order the book? And this is an important information.
Good question.
I almost forgot that one. Well, you can find it if you don't write my name, but the title of the book into Amazon on Amazon UK or Amazon France or Amazon Germany. So Living Through Extremes in Process Drama. If you type that in on Amazon, you can find, you'll probably find a copy of that. But it's also on the InSite and InSite's webpage, insitedrama.eu. If you insite-drama.eu. If you go there, you will find the links to where you can buy the book. And I just wanted to thank everyone for the participation. I'll be reading to the questions because they're really exciting, and we'll try to send it out to all of you. Thank you very much, Cecily, Chris, David, and Adam as well, very much. And also Yulchi Sabo, who has been dealing with the emails and all the technical stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yulchi.
Thank you.
And also thank you so much for all the 76 participants from more than 25 countries. Unfortunately, our session is over now. So have a nice day, or have a nice evening, or have a nice night, depending where you are watching from us. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.